DFS. Welcome into the divisional round edition of one of the most accurate DFS shows in the industry. This is the Adjusted Line Play Report presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. I am your host, Todd Hoffman. You can find myself on Twitter at Todzilla1337, and you can find Zilla Fantasy Elite over on Twitter at Zilla Fantasy. Today's show, as always, powered by Rain Total Body Fuel. Woo! Looking to make it rain some cash in DFS? Well, just tune in to the Adjusted Line Play Report from Zilla Fantasy Elite and follow host Todd Hoffman while he delivers the most accurate DFS advice in the industry and make it rain. Today's flavor, folks, we got white gummy bear. That is my favorite. Very, very delicious if you haven't had it. Sounds delicious. And boy, does that taste delicious as well. All right, folks, getting into the divisional round, we have 4 matchups. I'm going to go over those and what is likely to happen if you want to use it for DFS, if you want to use it for your prop bets, do it at your own peril. But this is pitting the offensive and defensive line play against each other and seeing kind of what game plan we can devise from that particular matchup. So we'll go basically from the number 1 ranked Vegas game total on the week down to the 4th game total on the week. And we'll just run into each one. And last week, we said we'd have an upset there with Jacksonville Jaguars. They were 2.5-point home underdogs, actually. Said they should win that particular matchup based off of what we could see. And lo and behold, even though they were down 27 points at one point, they came back and won that. They did lose the turnover battle, but as I said, their offense should be able to sustain drives, and we did see that later on. So pretty accurate information. We'll get into it here. Very first game on the slate is Jacksonville at Kansas City. Kansas City 8.5-point home favorites and a 52.5 Vegas game total here. Kansas City accounting for 30.5 of that. Jacksonville at 22. Getting into the Jacksonville side, their offensive pass protection number 3. Kansas City number 3 in the defensive pass rush. Pretty much a stalemate there. I wouldn't expect Jacksonville to have as much time as they're perhaps used to pass the ball, which is going to mean they need to get the ball out a little bit quicker. For me, this is probably going to be more in the favor of the tight end and running backs getting some dump-offs. So Engram, I think, will have another pretty solid game this week. Running those underneath and intermediate routes, I think we may see Christian Kirk end up getting a few more targets as well. I think he's a little bit more the underneath play there for Jacksonville. But yeah, Engram and some dump offs there to Etienne. I think that's going to be kind of how they attack their pass game. Getting into the run blocking, Jacksonville actually 29th in the offensive run blocking. Fortunately for them, Kansas City's pretty poor there at 21. But really the pass game matchups, the better of the two. I think Jacksonville's going to struggle to run the ball a little bit, even though Kansas City's defense against the run isn't the greatest. But Etienne getting a few more dump-offs, I think he'll make up for some of that inefficiency in the run game with a few extra targets. And I think Evan Engram on Jacksonville is going to be the one probably with the biggest game in the receiving aspect for the entire Jacksonville team. And we may see, Etienne and Christian Kirk kind of sprinkled in there with some additional targets. Just watch out for that. I don't think Jacksonville is going to be putting up a ton of points in this particular matchup, but they will be pressed to throw, most likely, with Kansas City scoring a bunch of points. And getting into that, Kansas City, obviously, they like to throw. They're number 5 in the offensive pass protection. Jacksonville, 29th in the defensive pass rush. I would expect Kansas City to have plenty of time to throw the ball. We've seen pretty much throughout the entire year that Kelsey is the biggest beneficiary of any of these matchups. He gets targeted the most. And then in these games where you get a little bit extra time to pass the ball, which is likely here, we do end up seeing Christian Watson with some, or not Christian Watson, it'd actually be Justin Watson. We've seen him get some of these long 60-yard, receptions or, pass attempts at least down the field. He could be the beneficiary of one of those. So if you're playing an island game, he might not be a bad choice, as he could take, one 60 or 70-yard touchdown or 60 or 70-yard catch for a touchdown. And if you're playing, full PPR league, you're looking at 14 points just in one play there. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, typically outside of Kelsey, the ball just gets spread out to too many people. We have a bunch of, Kadarius Toney, Travis Kelsey, as I mentioned, Justin Watson. He's not like a huge target hog, but they also have Juju Smith-Schuster, MVS, just Mecole Hardman. A lot of other options there. Kelsey's the biggest beneficiary always, but like I said, with this amount of time, the only other person I'd be interested in maybe attacking in a DFS situation would be Justin Watson with a huge bomb-type touchdown against Jacksonville here. Getting into the run blocking side, Kansas City number 3, which is pretty good, but Jacksonville 5th in stopping the run. We've seen Kansas City kind of make do with McKinnon and with CH being injured as McKinnon and the rookie there, Pacheco. I wouldn't expect any of those guys to be super effective in the run game this week. I think Jacksonville, can kind of stifle them there, and Kansas City likes to throw the ball anyway, and they're going to be super effective doing that versus, running the ball. And I think that's just going to be how Kansas City moves it. And I don't think, regardless if they're up a bunch of points, I don't think they're going to lean on the run game. I think they're just going to continue to, dink and dunk or pass the ball if they're going to be up big. I don't think Jacksonville is going to put up a bunch of points, but, that is their best matchup as far as offensive pass protection there for Jacksonville. So if they can kind of push that, you'd see Kansas City, kind of explode there for some points. That 52.5 Vegas total, I'm not sure if I like that, considering Kansas City might not be able to run the ball very well and Jacksonville might struggle a little bit on offense. Kansas City should be able to pass the ball very effectively, so certainly within the realm of possibilities that they're putting up their 30 points. Jacksonville, though, may struggle to hit that 22 team implied total there, but it is a good line regardless. I would probably bet the under if I had to put some money on it. I just don't think Jacksonville will be able to hold up their end of the bargain. And, Kansas City should be effective passing the ball, but not as great running the ball. So keep that in mind. We have 2 games actually tied for the second highest total on the slate. First one here, New York Giants at Philadelphia. Philadelphia, 7.5 point home favorites there. This, again, tied for second highest game total on the slate at 48 points. Philadelphia accounting for 27.75 of those. They are the second highest team implied total on the slate after Kansas City's 30.5. And then New York Giants at 20.25. They are the worst on this particular slate as far as their projected point total this weekend. Getting in the offensive side for the Giants, 24th in offensive pass protection and 24th in the run blocking. Unfortunately for their pass protection, Philadelphia number 1 in the pass rush. Philadelphia number 22 at stopping the run. If New York Giants want to move the ball, it's going to be through Barkley on the ground. You could see this getting ugly if they're going to be super effective running the ball against this Philadelphia defense. That could be the case. We have seen this defense, though, overcome some of these very high numbers there in the defensive run stopping once Jordan Davis is in there. He's very good at stopping the run. And if he's in there, might be lights out for the Giants defense there, and they're going to have to rely on that pass game a little bit more, and it doesn't look good for that particular situation. I think Philadelphia will be able to get after them, plenty of sacks, maybe some turnovers there from Daniel Jones, and he might not look as good as he has, in the 2 games that he played against the Vikings. I think he just won himself a bunch of money, but it could come crashing back down to earth here. Let's say he just has a terrible game, doesn't even hit 200 yards passing, couple interceptions, taking a bunch of sacks. I think they're going to look at him and be like, I don't know. I don't know if this guy can get us to a Super Bowl or even win us one. So keep that in mind. He could have a very ugly game in this particular matchup, but he does run quite a bit. He could certainly get flushed out of the pocket quite a bit in this particular matchup. Just keep that in mind. They are kind of an explosive team as far as offensive pass DVOA being number 7. So take that with a grain of salt. I don't think they're going to be able to be super explosive if they're under pressure. It's just going to be, for me, it's going to be the Saquon Barkley show, with him being a little bit better matchup as far as run versus pass game. And then, if the Giants are under pressure, they're going to need to get the ball out quick, and that's going to be more so dump offs to Saquon Barkley, and maybe some dump offs to the tight ends there as well. And the Giants, it just doesn't look very good for them on offense. Getting into the Philadelphia side, they're number 21 in offensive pass protection, which isn't that great. Fortunately for them, the Giants are 22nd, so it's kind of a stalemate there. Getting into the pass DVOAs, though, Philadelphia number 1, Giants number 32. This is suggesting that even though Philadelphia might have a normal amount of time to throw the ball, they could be very explosive on offense with their plays. We just saw Hawkinson have 2 big games against the Giants. Wouldn't be surprised to see Dallas Goedert as the number 1 tight end on this slate, even with Kelsey having a pretty solid matchup this week. Wouldn't be surprised to see Goedert have a big explosive game. Don't be surprised if you see Devonta Smith or A.J. Brown taking over and ripping off chunk gains and just being an explosive passing unit in this particular matchup. It looks favorable for that in the pass game. It's just they might not have a ton of time. It's a pretty even matchup there, so it's kind of studs win out, and I think they got for sure 2 studs in the pass game there with Goedert and Brown, and then Devonta Smith can hold his own as well. So expect the pass game to be explosive when they do pass the ball. Getting into the run blocking side, Philadelphia number 6, the Giants 30th. Run DVOA for Philly 4, Giants 29. This is suggesting Philadelphia will be able to run the ball at will on the Giants. Should be able to have very long sustained drives, be very effective running the ball, and like I said, explosive passing the ball. And this is also suggesting Philadelphia will be very explosive running the ball. Miles Sanders, probably the biggest beneficiary there as far as volume's concerned. And we always know Jalen Hurts is a rushing threat there. So I really expect Philadelphia to put up a bunch of points here, considering they're not going to be under pressure. Should have a normal amount of time to get the ball out, but they're going to be very explosive passing it. So when they do pass it, it might be chunk gains. And then when they're running it, it very much looks like they're going to average 5 or 6 yards a carry in this particular matchup against this Giants team. And it also looks like the Giants will struggle mightily. If I had to bet, I would say Philadelphia covers the 7.5 point line, even though this is a playoff matchup. Interdivisional rival here, third game. I think Philadelphia can blow the Giants out of the water in this particular matchup, and this is kind of suggesting they'll be explosive. Don't be surprised if you see Philadelphia have several drives where it's 5 or 6 plays and they're already in the red zone and looking to score within 5, 6, 7 plays of their drive. That's kind of how I expect it, and I don't think the Giants will be very effective moving the ball. Biggest beneficiary of their matchups would be Barkley in the run game and getting some dump offs. Getting into the other number 2 game on the slate is Cincinnati going into Buffalo. Buffalo 5.5 point home favorites. Buffalo there at 26.75 team implied total. Cincinnati 21.25. Vegas game total of 48 overall. We have seen this line move up 1 for Buffalo. It used to be a 4.5 point line. Now it's a 5.5 point line. I think it's just because Cincinnati's got some offensive linemen studs that are out. Jonah Williams, Alex Kappas don't look like they're going to be able to play in this particular matchup, which doesn't bode well for Burrow getting time to throw. We'll get into that. Offensive pass protection for Cincinnati, number 16, Buffalo 21. Looks like Buffalo kind of contains, doesn't give up a bunch of explosive plays. That's kind of Cincinnati's MO in the pass game. But really, the offensive pass protection, 16 versus 21, that does favor Cincinnati, but they do lose some, major offensive line help there that could swing in the favor of Buffalo in this particular matchup. Just keep that in mind. We have seen Cincinnati, despite being kind of middle of the pack to in the 20s there in offensive pass protection as they've gone on throughout the season, still kind of overcome that and have success in the pass game. Just keep that in mind. That's kind of been how they've operated this entire season. Matchups didn't really seem to have a huge effect on their ability to move the ball in the air. Getting into the run blocking, Cincinnati's probably going to struggle there, be a little bit less inclined to have a Mixon in my DFS lineup here. Number 16, Buffalo number 3. Really, if Cincinnati's going to be struggling to have some pass protection and struggling to move the ball in the run game, I'd expect some more maybe dump offs underneath routes if they're going to be under pressure. That probably bodes a little bit better for Samaje Perine and Hayden Hurst in this particular matchup. Could see Tyler Boyd actually come to life in this particular game with 8-10 targets, if that seems to be the case. Otherwise, I think Cincinnati's best chance of winning this game is that pass game, and they're probably going to have to rely on that. That's the better of the two matchups, at least on paper right now. Considering the offensive line struggles, I think that run blocking is going to be even worse, pass protection a little bit worse as well. So not looking great for Cincinnati, but we've seen them kind of overcome this with Joe Burrow the entire season. Keep that in mind. Buffalo side, number 7 in offensive pass protection, Cincinnati 28th in the defensive pass rush, suggesting Buffalo's going to have plenty of time to throw the ball. Typically when this is the case, Steph Diggs and Gabe Davis are the biggest beneficiaries. I wouldn't expect this to be any different in this particular week. Diggs and Gabe Davis probably going to be the big, receiving threats in this matchup. Getting into the run blocking side, number 13 for Buffalo, 15 for Cincinnati. That's kind of even up. Those who are studs usually can overcome a matchup like that. I wouldn't necessarily say Devin Singletary is that. Cook remains to be seen. James Cook, he does seem a little bit more explosive and the better of the two running backs back there, but volume-wise, they're both kind of in a void for me. I think you have some better options there, especially on Philadelphia, at getting a running back into your DFS lineups. But Buffalo, just an even up matchup. If I was going to pick any one of them, it'd be James Cook. He does run a little bit better routes and everything. This, I would say compared to the Philadelphia game, I think Philadelphia can put up a massive amount of points, and the Giants are going to struggle. Buffalo here, I think they can put up some points in the pass game and be pretty effective there. Their run game looks pretty neutral, but that should sustain drives for them. Cincinnati may struggle to move the ball, but their best option is the pass game. I think this game maybe outscores the Philly Giants game, despite it being tied. I think both of these teams can, overcome their deficiencies, where the Giants, I think, are going to struggle a little bit, despite Philadelphia looking like they're going to be one of the top scoring units on this particular week. Getting into the last game, we have Dallas at San Francisco. San Francisco, 3.5-point home favorites there over Dallas, a 46 Vegas game total. Again, the worst one on the slate at 4. Dallas offensive pass protection. Actually, let's get into those team implied totals. San Francisco, 24.75 team implied total. Dallas, 21.25. Dallas, 4 in the offensive pass protection. San Francisco, 16th in the pass rush. Although San Francisco doesn't give up a lot of explosive plays, Dallas should be able to find themselves with enough time to throw the ball in this particular matchup. And usually when he's got time, Dak likes to target CeeDee Lamb, and he likes to target Dalton Schultz. I would expect nothing different in this particular matchup. Getting into the run blocking side, Dallas 17, San Francisco number 2. This is suggesting Zeke is an avoid this week. He does not do well in these games where Dallas can't manhandle on the offensive line. So he's going to be very ineffective. This was similar to last week where we saw number 8 Tampa Bay kind of shut out Zeke, and he was not very effective for fantasy purposes. So more of a Pollard week if we're going to get anywhere, but I don't think they're going to be super explosive in the run game. They're going to have to pass the ball. I think Dallas is going to have to rely heavily on the pass game if they want to be effective in moving the ball this particular game. Getting into the San Francisco side, they're number 10 in offensive pass protection. Dallas number 2 at getting after the quarterback. A little bit of a favor there for Dallas's defense. I think they could get after the quarterback here, which is Brock Purdy. If he's getting pressured, I think he could melt under that pressure, and Dallas is certainly a team that could handle getting after him and taking advantage on defense there. I think, if this is going to favor anybody, it's going to favor some dump offs to Christian McCaffrey. It's going to favor some of these underneath routes a little bit more so to Debo and George Kittle. think this is a bad game for Ayuk in general. I don't think he's going to be able to get open or have enough time to get the ball thrown to him in this particular matchup. So Ayuk's avoid. Getting into the run blocking side, San Francisco number 4, Dallas number 10 at stopping the run. This is a little bit more of a favor for San Francisco. I see them probably being a little bit more effective running the ball than passing the ball in this game. I think we may see Brock Purdy finally, sink a game for San Francisco there. He's kind of come out of the light saying, wow, he's super good here. I just don't see it in this matchup. I think he's going to get under pressure. I think we're going to see him kind of crack under that pressure and have a poor game. And then they're going to have to rely kind of on that run game. San Francisco likes to slow it down. Looking at Dallas, their offensive pass protection and their ability to throw the ball, I think they can put up some points on the San Francisco defense. I think their line can handle that defense, which really is going to make me say, hey, upset alert. I think Dallas is going to go into San Francisco. I think Dallas wins this game. I think we see Brock Purdy kind of crack under that pressure. If we don't, hey, man, this guy might be actually legit at, the NFL level, despite not being that great at the college level. San Francisco certainly can set him up for success, but I think Dallas can get after him, and, that pressure is going to make him crack, and we might see similar to a Daniel Jones meltdown where he could have won himself, another huge contract after that Vikings game. But if he struggles, this week against that Philly defense, and we see him with some turnovers and just look really bad, that's going to seal the deal for him. I think we see the same from Brock Purdy this week, where he struggles, and it's kind of like, okay, yep, if Trey Lance was in there, he's going to be their guy next year, and if he was in there, maybe they win that particular game. But yeah, I see this being close. I think Dallas pulls it out in the end. We'll see if they have a new kicker come, kickoff on Sunday, but I think that's going to be how this game rolls out. And that's going to do it for this divisional round matchup of the adjusted line play report. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you learned a lot. I thank everybody who has stuck with me throughout this whole season. Really, really appreciate it, and look forward to doing this again next year. We'll see if we get some, championship round matchups in here. We'll see if we do a show for that. But anyway, that's it for the divisional round, and we'll see ya. Hopefully you can win some money based off of this advice, and stick with me. We'll get some dynasty content out for you, and hopefully we have another successful DFS season in 2023 for the NFL season. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Bye.